Hello and welcome back to Israel with Aline. Today we came to Bethel, the house of God, one of the most blessed and cursed places in all the promised land. Let's visit the place of Jacob's dream where he sees the entrance to heaven and also see with our own eyes the place where the golden calf was, one of the greatest sins in the history of the people of Israel. So, if you are ready, let's get started. Today, we start our day following in the footsteps of our patriarchs. Bethel, which is where we are, is one of the most cited places in the entire Bible. And it is mentioned from its beginning in the book of Genesis. If we go back to Genesis number 12, God says the following to Abraham about the entire promised land. "And from your birthplace and your father's house to the land that I will show you." What does this mean? God speaks to Abraham, "Leave your house, your relative's house, your parents' house, to the land that I will show you." And Abraham makes a gigantic journey to the promised land, the land of Israel, where we are now. And when he arrives, he will set up his tent here next to Bethel, between Bethel and Ai. So if we look here, somewhere in this valley, is where Abraham sets up his tent. Here he will invoke the name of God and set up an altar. And if we talk about the connection of the patriarchs with the promised land, here is one of the first places where we can feel this connection. And that's why I want to invite you to look at this valley and imagine more than 3,600, 3,700 years ago, Abraham setting up his tent here with his sheep and his animals. And through here passes the journey of Abraham more than once, including also Isaac and Jacob passed through this region. We're going to talk a little bit about Jacob here, but it's interesting because the road that passes by here, which is road number 60 on the map of Israel, is known to this day as Derek Avot, the path of the patriarchs, and also by this road we came to get here today. But let's continue because there's a lot for us to see today. We talked about the first patriarch, who is Abraham. He will have a son named Isaac. Isaac has two sons named Esau and Jacob. Who was the firstborn? Esau. But the one who ends up receiving the birthright will be Jacob. And when Esau hears that he has lost the birthright, he becomes extremely angry and tries to kill his own brother. And Jacob will be forced to flee. He will make a gigantic journey from Beersheba to Haran. And on the way he passes through here, through Bethel, which at that time was still called Luz. And he gets here and he starts to see the sun going down, the sunset, and he knows that he can't travel during the night. It's not like today, beautiful and lit roads. It was dangerous at that time to travel at night, and that's why he needs to sleep on the way. And he's going to sleep here in Bethel, or rather next to Bethel. And tradition tells us that the place where he's going to lie down, where he's going to sleep, is literally this stone. So let's also take advantage to rest and listen to the biblical passage of Jacob sleeping here. And he came to a place where he spent the night, because the sun had already set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it under his head, and lay down in that place. And he dreamed. And behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give to you and to your offspring. And your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth. It will spread to the west and the east and the north, and to the south, and in you and in your offspring all the families of the earth will be blessed. And behold, I am with you and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have spoken. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Truly the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. And he called the name of that place Bethel. The name of that city was formerly Luz. See how important this passage we just heard is. Here, God is again reinforcing his promise that this land would be inherited by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their descendants. And it really came true, because we see here the people of Israel to this day. Also during this passage we see that Jacob changes the name of this place, which was known as Luz, to Bethel. Bethel in Hebrew means Beit, or Beit means house, and El means God. So he will name this place as House of God, since here he will have a very close contact and proximity to God. He says, God was here and I didn't know, and so the name of this place to this day is Bethel. And he made a promise. He starts here a very dangerous journey, fleeing from his brother, and he promises that if God protected and kept him during this journey, he would return here. And indeed, years later, after he is already married and with children, he returns here to Bethel, once again keeping his word. But this journey of Jacob will have a very tragic moment, because when they are passing here in Bethel, Deborah, who was Rebekah's nurse, will pass away, and she was buried under a tree, an oak called the Oak of Weeping. And here behind me is the oldest oak that has survived in all of Israel, from Israel. Now this oak is a little over 1,000 years old, not the over 3,000 years from Jacob's time. So this one is not the original, but we see that people from ancient times have always taken care here to preserve at least one oak, probably to remember Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, since this place has been sacred since ancient times and even today for Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and we have many archaeological remains that prove this. One is the oak, but we have much more that we are going to see now. Now, what are you thinking of our tour today? If you have a dream of visiting the Holy Land, the Promised Land, and seeing all this with your own eyes, I want to invite you to participate in the New Israel Caravans with Aline. All the information is on our website, www.israelcomaline.com.br. It will be the trip of your life, and you can participate living in any city in Brazil or the world. So we see each other personally here. But folks, today we still have a lot to see, so let's go. We have here Christian archaeological remains from the Byzantine period, but one of the clearest periods that we see Christian presence is in this building here with arches. This here are remains of a Crusader church, a church of probably 900 years old. So we see that Christians also in ancient times came here to visit this important place. And if we go in, we see a small door that leads to another structure. Come with me, folks. Folks, we are inside a maqam, an Arab Muslim religious building. What is their relationship with this place? The Arabs, they are descendants of Ishmael, which means they are also descendants of Abraham. And that's why biblical sites related to the story of Abraham are also often visited by Arabs and Muslims, such as the tomb of the patriarchs in Hebron, which is further south. So we also see Muslim and Arab presence here from the 7th century AD, which is the first time they arrive and conquer this territory. So here archaeology shows us Christian, Muslim, and of course several Jewish worship sites. We talk about several beautiful stories that took place in this location linked to our patriarchs. But here in Bethel also happened one of the most terrible passages of the people of Israel, the passage of the golden calf. But to start understanding it, we have to go back to the time of the kings of Israel. In the time of King Saul, King David, and King Solomon, they ruled over a large kingdom called the Unified Kingdom, and in it were the 12 tribes of Israel. But King Solomon, did he sin greatly in the eyes of God? And God will punish him by dividing the kingdom into two. The northern kingdom was the strongest kingdom, and within it were 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel. This kingdom was called the Kingdom of Israel, and it was ruled by King Jeroboam. And in the south was the smaller of the two, called the Kingdom of Judah, and it was ruled by one of King Solomon's sons called King Rehoboam. Now, why is this important? Because Jeroboam, despite being the stronger king between the two, controlling more territories, more wealth, and more tribes, he did not have Jerusalem. And he knew that Jerusalem was the center of the people of Israel, of all 12 tribes. In Jerusalem was the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy of Holies, and the Temple of Jerusalem. But he did not want the people to go to Jerusalem to worship God because he was afraid that they would go to Jerusalem, see King Rehoboam, and say, "We want to be his subjects." After all, King Jeroboam, he is a descendant of the house of David. So, the house that should rule all the tribes. So Jeroboam, he creates a plan against God's commandments. He tells the people, you don't need to go to Jerusalem because we have our own worship in the kingdom of Israel. And he will create abominations in two places, one in Dan and the other here in Bethel. And this abomination is what we are going to see now. Look at this structure that was found by the archaeologists. We can clearly see its demarcation. Do you see the wall here? And it continues. The size of this structure is exactly the same as the measurements of the tabernacle made by Moses. Jeroboam, what is he going to do? He is going to mix traditions of the people of Israel with foreign traditions and create a place against God's commandments. God orders to do it in Jerusalem. He decides to do it in Bethel precisely because he did not want the people to go to Jerusalem. But the measurements of the place are according to the tabernacle. And in the middle, he is going to place a golden calf. Right here was one of those two golden calves. We have already visited the site of the other calf in Tel Dan. Those who haven't watched it, I highly recommend a very in-depth study about the golden calf there in Tel Dan. I will leave the link for you guys up here and also in the first comment. But today we are going to know the second golden calf. And what catches my attention in this place is that we are 12.4 miles from Jerusalem. We are so physically close to Jerusalem, in 1-2 days of walking you could get there. But still, Jeroboam didn't want them to go there and creates an alternative worship in this place. And a question that arises is why, of all the images he could choose to put here, does he make a golden calf? And the answer is, we're not sure, but we believe he was inspired by the golden calf that had been made at the foot of the mountain, Sinai. But there God is clearly going to punish the people for this wrongdoing. But he doesn't want to listen to God. Instead, he really wants to do what he thinks is best for his reign. And for me, the saddest thing to think about is that God had given Jeroboam a chance to follow the right paths, and that God would bless his kingdom, even though he was not a descendant of King David. He gets a chance, as we can read in this passage. And it shall be that if you listen to everything I command you, and walk in my ways, and do what is right in my eyes, keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, I will be with you and build you a firm house, as I built for David, and I will give you Israel. But he does not take this chance that God had given him, and he will follow the path of the golden calf. And not only will he stray, but he will lead a good part of the people of Israel astray. Because we know that this was a very visited place, so the people will indeed fall for this trick that Jeroboam does, and they come here to worship. And for many, many centuries, Bethel will become a place of worship to other gods and the golden calf. See that a place that starts at the top with the patriarchs talking to God will end up as a place of worship until the time of King Josiah. Josiah is a king that we don't hear much about, but he was one of the most righteous kings according to the Bible. And he will come to end the worship at this place, as we can read in this passage. And also the altar that was in Bethel, and the high place made by Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin. He tore down this altar along with the high place, burning the high place, grinding it to dust, and burning the idol of the grove. And Josiah turned around, saw the graves that were there on the mountain, and ordered the bones to be removed from the graves, and burned them on that altar. And so he desecrated it according to the word of the Lord, which the man of God had prophesied when he announced these words. And the place was forgotten and abandoned, and only rediscovered in the 19th century by archaeologists like Professor Zev Vilnay, who believes that this is really the place of the golden calf, and today it is a completely abandoned place. I find it interesting that no one comes here. Some people come here to visit Jacob's stone. Few, but if they come, it's only Jacob's stone and no one else comes to this place. But let's continue, because there is more archaeology around here. Look at this tomb that is behind me. Why is it so impressive? We read the passage that talks about Josiah and how Josiah will destroy the altar of the golden calf. And one of the things that the Bible tells us is that around the altar he will find tombs. And look, here are Jewish tombs from biblical times. This one is relatively new. It's 2,000 years old, but they also found tombs here that are over 2,500 years old and almost 3,000 years old. So Josiah precisely enters these tombs. He takes out the bones and he places them on the altar of the golden calf to desecrate the altar so that no one can return to idolize it. Because we know that the tendency of the people is often to go the wrong ways. So in this place, they idolize the golden calf, Baal, and other wrong idolatries as well. And that's why Josiah wanted to end it once and for all. And he knew that the way to do this was really by bringing human bones. And that's why finding here graves from biblical times prove to us once again the historical truth of this biblical passage. And that's why when people ask how we can be sure that we are in Bethel, we can be sure because we put together the archaeological puzzle, the location of the altar, the dream, all these different archaeological locations we can put together to get a better idea of what this place looked like. And that's why we know that we really are in the region of Bethel, where all these stories took place, thanks also to these tombs. Here beside us, there are several archaeological remains that might even go unnoticed because there are a bunch of oak trees growing over it. But if we look closely, we can see here a series of stones going up. And this was the beginning of a protection tower built during the time of the first temple of Jerusalem. As we already mentioned at the beginning of the video, the kingdom was divided into two, and there were constant conflicts between the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. And one of the contentious points, obviously, were the golden calves. That's why the king here in Israel built a wall around the altar of the golden calf and also protection towers, and this is one of the towers that protected the golden calf. I just noticed something that I want to show you. Here is another tomb from biblical times, and this one is possibly from the time of Josiah. And look where we are. Looking a few meters to the side, we can see the altar of the golden calf again. So Josiah, he doesn't go to distant places to look for bones. Right around when he passes by here, he sees tombs. And probably he gets this idea of using the bones to desecrate the place. So he takes the bones from here or from nearby tombs and takes them to the altar. And so we see once again the historical accuracy of this biblical passage. Bethel, the house of God, one of the most cited places in the entire Bible, and I think it is a reflection of the biblical history and the history of the people of Israel, with its highs and very lows. Also here by my side we see the wall where this place of worship to the golden calf made by Jeroboam began. Probably one of the greatest sins of the people of Israel happened here. And if we walk a few meters to the side and see this wonderful view, the valley with its hills, we know that here somewhere Abraham set up his tent. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob passed through here. And here they have a connection with God, and here really begins the story of the people of Israel and their descendants who are alive to this day. So the land of Israel and the people of Israel have had their ups and downs, but the whole story is important to be told, and another place that proves the historicity of the Bible. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked it and want to support the channel, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. A kiss and see you next time.